They're complaining, overeducated. You are saying all the words I'm dreaming. Say it after me. I can't sing. I've been listening to the new Abnormal, The Strokes album that dropped back in April, addictively for the last like 2 days because it is so good. And I've been just blown away by it every second. It's not what you're all going to be hearing. Y'all going to be hearing some nice, maybe something crisp, some jazz like usual, maybe some lo-fi, maybe even some city pop in there for Midnight Cowboy for his pleasure, maybe some Sexy Robot or Oh Daddy. We'll get something in there. But today we got ourselves a tier list, and it's for Path of Radiance. Now, my most recent experience with Path of Radiance has been pretty miserable. It's a game that is very well known for being incredibly slow and tedious because you can't skip enemy phases, you can't really turn, you have the overworld animations that are very slow compared to like what, the overworld or map animations are in, any other game, the GBA games or in, DS games where you can just skip all that completely. So it's notable as a very slow game, and my most recent playthrough was without ever attacking a single time on player phase, or the minimum number of times that you have to do that to beat the game. And it made the game so slow and so bad. So maybe my things will be skewered here, but this is every playable character in the game. They're all currently listed in Oliver tier. I didn't make this tier list. There was just an Oliver tier already here. I don't know who did that. I was gonna think of something clever to put there instead, or like some meme, but like I can't top just having Oliver in his own tier. So shout outs to whoever put that there, but that's the way it is. So the rules generally for the tier list is that this is just for fun. This is not going to be the most mega optimal tier list ever because, everybody makes mistakes. I'm going to make mistakes, and I'm going to be hypocritical on some of my ratings because that's what everybody does. In general, though, my philosophy for tiering is characters that make the game easier with the greatest amount of reliability. So not how do you clear the game in the absolute fastest amount of time or the fewest amount of turns, but how do you most easily clear the game in a way where you are still getting, in the case of Path of Radiance, you're still going fast enough to get like all of the bonus experience, for example. So that's going to be what we're going to work with. I've beaten Path of Radiance about 4 times, I think. This will assume hard mode, US hard mode, or the West hard mode, not Maniac mode, because Maniac mode is silly and stupid and nobody plays it. So there's not really too much of a difference, honestly, between hard and Maniac, except the tiers probably start to push downwards. You can start pushing characters down a little more. I'm a big fan of symmetry. I like a symmetrical tier list. You're going to see that here. But that's the way that it is. So let's get going. And if I start like singing my tiering in a different type of rhythm than like normal talk, that's because again I'm jamming out on my end, because I can't be sitting here talking to myself for an hour like this with no music on. So just be prepared for that. So we're going in game order. We're going in order of recruitment, and so we're starting with Ike. Now Ike, man, he's my main in Smash, and I think that deserves S tier because this guy fights for his friends. If you're going up against him, you just prepare yourself. It's not going to end up very good for you. And Ike in this game definitely struggles because this is a mount-heavy game. You want to mount really bad. You want a lot of move. You want Super Kanto. You don't really get that with Ike because in this game, if you're a mounted unit, you get to move again after attacking. And that's busted. And Ike doesn't get that opportunity. Ike also is locked to 1 range for most of the game. The only 2 range option he really gets is the Sonic Sword, which is better on other characters anyway. So foot locked, late promotion, 1 range locked in a game that is very enemy phase heavy. but he's not terrible. He's not the worst ever. I mean, he's probably, I'll put him right here in C tier because he's the only character with perfect availability. So he's always going to be doing something. And because, you know, you need to seize a lot of chapters, he's gonna be there. In fact, maybe we do put him in S tier because you literally can't beat the prologue without him. So, you know, really good. Titania, I don't know to what extent I have to explain Titania, because the thing about Titania is that she is maybe, she's not the most busted unit in the series. You know, that's probably like Seth or something, but Titania steamrolls this game, absolutely bodies it from the moment she shows up in chapter 1 through just about every chapter that she's in. And she never really falls off. Other characters will catch up to her, but she never falls off. She is among the most ridiculous characters in the series and really belongs in a tier all of her own. I think we will have other S tier characters, but again, that's because I'm in love with symmetry. Titania absolutely rolls over this game, and nobody else even comes close. Because in general, some of the things that you really like to see with Fire Emblem units are things like, you know, are they really good at base? Do they have an opportunity cost where you don't want to, where you have to take them through like a bad phase to get them good? And Titania experiences nothing bad at any point in the game. And just a really ridiculous, terrifyingly strong unit, and just awesome. So good. And then we got Oscar. So basically Brock here is around for almost as much of the game as Titania. I think he has one less chapter of availability because one of the early chapters, I think it's like chapter 3, Titania's around and he's not. But other than that, dude is there the whole time, has a mount, has super canto. And what makes Oscar so good and one of the best units in the game is not only the availability, but because in this game with bonus experience, you know, every character pretty much in this game can become really good because of bonus experience for the most part. There's one exception, but bonus experience allows everybody to steamroll out of control. So if you look at it like every character has equal access to all of the bonus experience, Oscar is one of the best units in the game to get it because he does have some issues early on. He doubles, you know, he doubles a decent amount early on. His strength is a problem. You know, he doesn't hit all that hard. So he's a really good person to pour all that bonus experience in because getting a promotion to a paladin to get access to solve his strength problem, you know, having 7 move and then 8 move and getting super canto and just being around, like the dude is bad. He is badass and like so much fun. He does struggle a bit early on, but he is one of the best units to pour a bunch of stuff onto. And he definitely struggles compared to Titania. This is again where there is a clear tier gap between them, but because I know we're going to have a lot of boys down here in D and F, I think the characters that are going to go into A tier are going to be definitely a cut below Oscar, but like just imagine that we're Oscar's all the way over here to Titania over here. And then Boyd is pretty nice. I don't know if A tier is overrating him. He is around for a long time and he has very good combat when you get him to like the point where he can reliably throw hand axes around, which is very nice, very strong. And he does get to the point where he doubles, but his promotion isn't all that great into warrior because he gets bows, which are okay. In my playthrough, they were completely worthless because at no point do you ever get the opportunity to really use bows because you don't have a player face to work with. It's just like bad. But Boyd, very strong, very powerful unit. But this is a game, again, that's very mount dominated. You really want to like be able to use that canto, do all that stuff. So I'm thinking Boyd may be a B tier unit, but I'll leave him in A tier right now, sort of a marker, and I'll see who else goes into A tier, and I'll think about moving him down because I think he's good, but there's a lot of other characters you'd probably rather use. And then Riss is Riss maybe right here. Riss would have the benefit of being one of the few staff users in this game. There's only a handful of characters that can use staves in this game. I think it's Riss, Soren, Ileana, Mist, and then I think that's it for staff users in this game, or potential staff users. So you think that Riss would have like that really good, you know, shit going for him there with the staffs. The problem, though, is that this is a game where staves are not all that useful. There's no like warp. There's no, you know, big kind of like things you want to be doing with that, because you can. It's not there. The best thing I think he has is the barrier staff, which is called, what's it called in this game? It's not barrier, but it does the same thing. It's +7 res. That's like the best thing he's got. Heal and mend, obviously. But this is a game where characters can just carry around like 5 vulneraries, no problem. And because they're mounted and so enemy face heavy, you can just have characters run around with vulneraries and elixirs and heal themselves up, and they're going to get way ahead of Riss. And Riss is really nice for his early game contribution when your characters that are not Titania are a little more frail. And they're footlocked as well, so like they need that healing. They're going to need all that stuff. So Riss is nice. I like Riss. Nice guy. He's a good boy, but there's not a whole lot of use for staffs in this game. Alencia, that's the other character that can use staffs. So not a ton that he gets to do, but physics staff is pretty nice at some points. Maybe, I don't know if I want to call him better than Ike, because I don't like staffs all that much, but maybe I'm underrating. So Shannon is a tough cookie to talk about, because he's sort of the tale of two units, because when you have him early on, he's very nice. Because he's super bulky, pre-promoted sniper. You get him in chapter 3, I think, and then he's around for like chapter 3, 4, and then like 5 or 6. I think it's 6 for a little bit. And then he leaves, and when he comes back, he's terrible. I've never recruited Shannon in this game. I've just kill him every time in like chapter 18, because you have to bring Rolf to recruit him and then beat him with Ike, and that's just like not worth it. So I usually just have Titania or someone deck the shit out of him and then move on with my life. So depending on how you want to value that, it's hard to like determine where you want to put Shannon. Shannon is very, very nice in chapter 3 or chapter 4 especially. He's very nice because he can get the heat off of everyone else with his skill Provoke, which causes enemies to prioritize attacking him. And because of his bulk from being a pre-promote, it keeps everyone like Soren and Ike pretty safe while Titania runs straight to the boss. Because you pretty much have to run in that chapter. I like to run Titania and just 2-turn that chapter every time because it's very easy to do. So you run Titania straight to the boss, and you have 2 turns where you got to keep everybody else who's pretty squishy safe, because you don't have Boyd or Oscar in that chapter. And Shannon does a lot of good work there to make sure that happens. But those contributions on those 2 chapters are definitely not B tier worthy. So probably C tier. And then if you like average it out with the rest of the game, he may be F tier or D tier, probably. Maybe not F, but pretty bad most of the game. But he's really good early on. A guy I like a little more than Shannon is Gatry. Because he's got really nice hair, and he's got problems. He's an armor knight, but he's there early on when you kind of like that bulk a little bit for chapter 3 and 4. You like having it because it helps protect Ike. It lets Ike kind of run up to, get to Marcia quick without having to worry about enemies from behind him, because Gatry's just going to take care of it. Chapter 6, Gatry's really nice. Chapter 5, Gatry is really nice. You know what? Actually, because chapter 5, I am going to move Shannon up to above Ike, because what he does in chapter 5 is really nice. But chapter 5, choking those points, Gatry's got it on lock. And then the chapter you get him back in, which I think is 13, he is very nice there too, because you got some points that need choking. Gatry going to get it done for you. Now, throughout most of the game, Gatry definitely struggles because Armor Knight is not getting it done, not moving anywhere. I've never promoted the guy. He tends to just be benched pretty much immediately. He's in the chapters that he's force deployed in, and then I just kind of let him go. But in all of those chapters, he's good. He never hurts you at any point in this game. He's never like an active liability. You don't have to like, and he always has stuff that he can do because he's in chapters that really like are of a benefit to him and his class and like his strengths, which is the really good bulk. So I like Gatry. You know, he's fine. He's fine. He gets the job done for where he is. And you got Soren. You know, Soren is I don't know. I have no idea what to say about Soren because I have never ever enjoyed using Soren because Path of Radiance is a game where chip damage is not all that useful. Player face chip damage is just very rarely useful unless you're looking at like the rare enemies that are really bulky early on. And because Soren can't double early on in the game, he really struggles to double. He has Adept, which is nice, but it rarely procs because it has like a single-digit % chance, I think, early on with how his stats work out. That he never really does a whole lot for me. And then the staffs he gets on promotion just is whatever because he can use the heal staff. It's just not going to do, you know, it's the wrist problem. I think he's better than Riss because he does do damage, but he doesn't have any bulk. And this game's all about enemy phasing, and the chip damage he provides isn't much. You can get him to the point where he won rounds, and you give him some nice supports, things like that, and it works out really well. Supports are something I actually haven't mentioned yet up to this point. One thing I should say that helps Ike and helps Oscar is that they have the Earth Affinity, which gives full avoid. I think it's plus 15 avoid when you have an A support, which is ridiculous. And since they both have it, they both get plus 30 avoid. And in a game that's all enemy face heavy and where dodge tanking is reliable because weapon triangle is really good in this game, ridiculous. Soren though, kind of shit, not gonna lie. I'll probably put him, I don't know. I like Ike's combat more, but Soren, see, because Soren does like, I find Soren does the same shit Ike does on enemy phase, which is, or on player phase, which is like, you know, that's when he does all of his work. And then, but Ike can at least survive. Ike can survive enemy phases. So I probably make the breakdown like this. I don't know. Maybe I'm really underrating him. He might not be a bad BXP dump, but like, I'd rather dump bonus experience on anyone else. Mia, F tier. That one, I think, gonna hurt for a lot of people because, you know, Mia, sword locked. She has like the Ike problems of being sword locked, except worse availability and less strength and less HP and less defense and less good and all awful. Less good, all awful. That's Mia. She is not the worst unit in the game because she can go into chapter, I think it's 7, and attack some of those pirates and pretty reliably dodge tank them. That's pretty good. That's a nice contribution. I guess we'll take it. Maybe that's chapter 8. I don't remember. It's the chapter with the beach. But no, Mia, even if you bonus experience dump, or if you assume everybody can bonus experience dump, the things you like to see are, you know, do you have 1-2 range? Do you have a horse? Do you have, you know, a Pegasus or a Wyvern? Those are the things you like to see. Those like unique utility things that, you know, higher movement, Canto. And she doesn't have 1-2 range, and she doesn't have a mount, so she's never gonna be as good as anyone else with that, you know, BXP dump. But she actually requires it. You know, Shannon is gonna be good for when he's around. Gatry's gonna be good for when he's around. Don't need a BXP dump. Mia absolutely needs it. She's one of the worst candidates for it. Ileana, you know, Ileana's base stats, if I remember, are slightly better than Soren, and she has a better base level, so she's easier to get to 10 and then promote her if you want another staff user. That's what I attempted to do in my no player phase run. Didn't work out because I could never get her levels because she had to do all of her combat on enemy phase and it wasn't going to work. I don't know. She's not all that good. She's probably right here. I mean, she's definitely worse than Soren because Soren at least has big gay energy with Ike, which I'm all here for. And Ileana just doesn't have that. Ileana just, I mean, she's always hungry, but that's about it. And she just doesn't do a whole lot. Again, she doesn't have those standout traits. She's around, so she's not going to do anything bad for you. And she's going to be worth deploying early on when you have her because, you know, who else you going to bring instead of her? Like, so it's whatever, but, you know, not all that good. And her skill Shade is, like, fine, but, like, it's so unreliable that, like, if Shade was reliable and enemies would only ever attack her if she was the only person in range, then she would actually be significantly better because then you could like rescue drop her into really dangerous situations and allow her to like do some good meaty player phase chip and then be safe on enemy phase, you know, in subsequent turns. But it's unreliable, so you know, kind of bad. But you know, she's hungry. That's, you know, I'm hungry too sometimes, so I relate. Mist has a couple advantages over like Soren and Riss that I actually like. She has some problems. She comes in at level 1, which is bad. Really bad. You know, Riss has already gotten up quite a bit of levels, so Riss is definitely closer to promoting into a bishop. But Mist has nice ass support with Ike. She's one of only 2 characters that can go into the Black Knight fight with Ike, and basically she's needed there if you want to win, because if you get physic on her plus the support with Ike, it's going to make that fight, basically it's what makes that fight doable to begin with. And you know, that's one fight, but hey, it's a part of the game that she makes easier that nobody else can. It is a thing of unique utility that she does have. But the other advantage is that she is, until you get Alencia, she's your only staff user that is mounted. She mounts on promotion. You have to get her to level 10, which is a huge pain in the ass. But, you know, staff users generate their own experience. She doesn't need babying or anything like that. She's just going to slowly do it. You pop a Master Crest on her, or Master Seal or whatever, and bam, you got a mounted Kanto healer. That's going to get the job done. I'm liking that, not going to lie. You know, hey, that's fine. It works. It's good. She uses physic. Staffs still kind of suck, but like, I don't think it makes it better than Soren, actually. I think it makes her better than Riss because long term, you know, their early game utility is the same. Riss's early game availability isn't significantly more important, I don't find, compared to what Mist gives you in the long term. Because by the time Mist joins, she's just as good as Riss because stats don't matter on healers. And their promotions are just his is vastly inferior because he just stays footlocked and she gets him out. Rolf, absolutely awful. Imagine Shannon, but like even worse, like Shannon without ever being good. In a game that is this, even if this game was player phase focused, Rolf would be bad because he just does almost no damage at base. Rolf is one of those characters that, like, depending on how you want to play the game, you're going to have a lot of fun using him or not. I don't tend to have a lot of fun using him because when I prefer bad units that, like, can be a little more dynamic. I find Rolf being an archer in this game, in Path of Radiance, there's just not a whole lot of dynamic stuff that he can do because the chip damage just never really helps. The player phase chip just doesn't do much for you throughout the game. I actually like using Rolf a lot in Radiant Dawn. I find that game, you know, it's more difficult. There's more of a player face focus. And so Rolf I find is a lot more fun to use as a bad unit in Radiant Dawn. But here, I just don't even think he's all that fun. Some people are going to love using him, and I understand that. I definitely get that. I get the appeal. I just don't find him that appealing here. But that was mostly like whether or not you find him fun. The reasons he's bad is, of course, he's locked to 2 range. He doesn't have an enemy phase. He's super squishy. Starts at level 1, really far away from promotion. Player phase chip isn't all that useful in Path of Radiance. You need 1-2 range to be really good, or at least some bulk to survive out on the front lines. And, you know, Rolf just fits none of that. He's also a war crime. I cannot believe they're letting him fight because he's like 8 years old or something. And like, they're just throwing him out there to let him murder people. Like, that's fucked up. Not good. Very bad. So then you get Marcia. You know, I've played the game through 4 times. I've only ever recruited Marcia twice. I hate her recruitment a lot because I've had her numerous times die on the first turn she shows up in Chapter 3, which is just awful because that's just RNG screwing you over, and it's terrible. But, hey, it's your early game Pegasus Knight. She's not that early game. She's about at the end of the early game, but Pegasus Knight early on? That's what I'm talking about. I also just really like Marcia, the way that she talks. I find it funny. Things like, oh, butter. What is it she says? She's like butter and biscuits or something. Or she just has a very funny way of speaking that I find very, very entertaining, that I like a lot. She reminds me a lot of like Flane from Three Houses, actually. But she flies, and in this game, flying is nice. It's so nice. Long term, you know, she doesn't have the early game, but she has, like, she's a really good bonus experience dump, and she's gonna have the whole game to be flying around after this. That's so nice. That's so good. So good. The only reason I give the edge to Oscar over Marcia is because he's around for the early game. Although I think maybe if you're like more of an LTC type player, you can make the argument that Marcia's better because flying just kicks ass. But this is what I'm going with. She does have like stat problems that a lot of units have in this game when they first join. Like, she's not going to tank anything really. She does have a javelin, but it's going to weigh her down. She's not going to double with it. It's going to be pretty inaccurate. But one of the best, you know, again, if we're assuming you can just dump bonus experience on anybody, she's like early game, definitely like the top candidate for a big bonus experience dump because she is just the best. Because she's early game Pegasus Knight. I can't get enough of that. Leth and then Mordecai. This is where it starts to get a little complicated, I find. Because Laguz are sort of screwed. They kind of did Laguz dirty. Now, not Leth and Mordecai. Leth and Mordecai are good because when Leth and Mordecai are around, they're 2 of your only units that can actually reliably kill a guy on player phase, like just one round a dude straight up. And that's really nice. That's very valuable. But nobody else can really do that. And so they're pretty good for it. I'd say I'm tiering them sort of like at the same time. I'd probably go like this. Leth is significantly worse because she has worse bulk and Mordecai has smite, which allows you to shove a unit 2 spaces instead of 1, which is what most units can do. And he's very big, like Constitution big, so he can shove a lot of dudes. He can even shove horses, which is hilarious. He can smite them. And that's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. Fun is good, and fun gets you boosted on the A tier, up to A tier, because it's fun that gives units more movement. And then these guys are just bulky early on, and they kill everyone. They don't have 2 range, which sucks. But early on, they are very good. Volk, steal shit, picks locks, A tier. A lot of people rip on Volk because they're like, hey, he takes $50 to pop open a lock or open a chest, which is like true, but like everything that you're going to get out of a chest is way more valuable than the $50, so it doesn't matter. Like, even if it's something you're not going to use, you can just sell it and you've made more money than what Volk took. So it's pretty good. Volk is really nice. And his high strength means he can steal a lot of shit too. That's pretty nice. He can get you a shitload of physics stabs, which is always great. So I like Volk. I also like Kieran. Kieran is probably my favorite character in the game just because of his support with Riss, where he gets an axe stuck in his head. It's the thing I always mention with Kieran. I love that support conversation. It is OD good. But what Kieran has, he's not going to nest tier unit because, he has less availability than like these guys. 2 chapters less than Marcia, and he doesn't fly. But his combat is fresh. He kills everybody. He snowballs very quickly. Kanto axes, hand axes. It's all nice. It's the stuff that you know and that you love from Titania and Oscar and Marcia. It's just that he's not there as much, and he's worse than Titania, like by a wide margin. At this point in the game where Kieran comes in, by the way, Titania is still dominating and the best in the game. Just unbelievable. Just so good. Braum, I had never used Braum until the my most recent playthrough with only player phase or only enemy phase, because he's never has a use. He's not like trash. Well, he is, but like not trash. He's just regular trash. Like if you've lost some guys, maybe you're Iron Manning, you need someone to come in. Braum is going to do an okay job being a filler unit. There's a lot of maps in this game where there's just a bunch of enemies, running around. He can wall them a little bit. He's not super bulky. He's an armor knight. He gets doubled sometimes, but enemies are pretty slow, so he gets out of that pretty quickly. He does work sometimes when he can get to the action, which in some chapters he can. Chapter 12, the chapter he joins, I think it's chapter 11 or 12. He can do some work there. Hey. But it's fine. It's okay. As is Nefni. Nefni's okay. I don't know if Nefni's like D tier, but I look at all these other units and I'm like, that are above her. And like, Soren's around when there's like no opportunity cost. Ileana's around when she's like one of the better units. By the time you get Nefni, it's sort of like the Braum problem where like there's just better units. You're like, who are you going to bench for Nefni? You're going to bench Kieran? You're going to bench Mordecai? Like, you're going to bench like, I don't know. Like, it's not really worth it. Now, of course, Nefni is a very fun unit to use because she has Wrath. And Wrath is fun to fuck around with. And Wrath Vantage is fun to fuck around with, of course. And then it's also Nefni, so people love her and I love her because, Nefni. But if we're being honest, she just doesn't add a whole lot to the squad. Because Kieran's running around with hand axes killing everyone. Boyd's running around killing everyone. Well, Boyd's not really running around. He's crawling around because he's footlocked. But you get the idea. Nefni is just not at a point of self-sustainability at the beginning. She needs a lot of babying. She's not terrible at base, but like to get her to run away, she either needs a big BXP dump or needs to just like, take a shitload of kills. She needs to steal experience, and it's just not working. It's just funny because I used to like say someone like Zahark was worse. I actually like Zyhark more in this game than I thought I did. I got a new appreciation for him, ironically, in the enemy phase only, because with enemy phase only, I don't have the opportunity to safely train bad characters, so I just got to go by who's got the best stats, and Zyhark has this brief window where he's good enough to really work on your team. He doubles everyone, and he can one-round some of the Laguz that you go up against, and even one-shot some of the, like, Ravens with the Laguz Slayer, which is really nice. And he's got the killing edge too that he can use at base. So Zahark early on is like the dude who can kill a guy in one round, and that's valuable. It's sort of the same value as Mordecai and Leth, though he doesn't have the bulk, but he does have options with more types of weapons with the killing edge, and then effective weapons like the Laguz Slayer. The Armor Slayer fucking sucks and is worthless, but with the Laguz Slayer, he doesn't face weapon triangle disadvantage, so he's still gonna wreck with it. Soth, I used to say Soth was one of the worst units in the game, and I still think that is true to an extent. But honestly, if I'm being real, on a normal playthrough, he does more for me than Braum does. And then, of course, Mia and Rolf, because Soth, as a thief, can at least run around the desert, grab desert items. He can pick locks if you want him to, pick some chests, and that's pretty nice. Chapter 13, the boat map. There's a lot of chests lying around. You might want to have Soth going around and picking some stuff up. Maybe tag team it with Volk. Volk gets like one half of the ship. Soth gets the other, so you make sure you get everything, and it's pretty nice. The reason why Soth gets a lot of shit is that he has daggers, which are a shitty weapon type. He can't promote, and he gets experience at half the rate of everyone else in exchange for like a plus 10% to his growth rates or something. He gets the Blossom skill, which is sort of like shitty Paragon, in that like I would rather just get more experience than have slightly better chances to get stats on level ups. Especially because he gets level ups half as often as everybody else and has half the amount of levels to get. Because this is a game, Path of Radiance is one of those games where you can reasonably cap units out, you know, hit their max level. So like Soth just gets fucking shit on as far as a combat unit goes. And it's because his strength is so low, it's difficult to get him to steal items because you need to have more strength than the item weight to steal. If I remember correctly, I'm pretty sure that's this game. Or am I tripping out and thinking that this game's Thracia? I just remember he's not good enough to steal a lot of shit, which sucks. But still, fine. Jill. Love Jill. S tier. Maybe not. Maybe A tier because of availability issues, but like Wyvern Rider and is Jill. And, oh, well, I mean, to be fair, she's a massive racist. So, like, I'm not really a big fan of, like, that. She does get involved in one of my favorite story instances, which is when you can talk to her dad late in the game, and she will turn back into a red unit because she refuses to kill her own father, which is very, very interesting and very nice. It's not nice, but it's very cool that the game like accounts for that. Really incredibly powerful unit because flying is busted, being a wyvern is busted, having axes is busted. Like, something about characters in this game with red hair really fucking good. I don't know what it is. Jill, just so good. I think get Astrid. Astrid's pretty nice. Astrid's the only bow unit in the game that's really good. She's not really good. She's kind of like the best that like a growth type character tends to be because she has several advantages that work in her favor. She has the Paragon skill, which, you know, gives her 2 times experience. She has Canto, Super Canto on a mount. So even though she's bow locked at first, she can promote and get a weapon, get another weapon type, axes or lances or something, for 1-2 range. And then she just also can move after shooting a bow, which makes her incredibly easy to like maneuver around with. I don't think she's good enough for B tier, but she is fine. I use her a lot. I think she's a much more fun quote unquote bad unit to use than Rolf because like the payoff is a lot better, and even when you're using her when she's in the phase of being very weak, there's still a lot of stuff she can do that just is pretty dynamic and fun with like Canto shenanigans. So, you know, I like it a lot. Makalov is probably around the same level, maybe here. I think a lot of people dislike Makalov because he sucks and is an asshole, but you know, he's got a mount. He can't be that bad. And he's not awful. He's fine. You know, I think the thing about Makalov is that because he can promote and get that axes, have some weapon triangle control, have some hand axes, get juicy with it like that, has Super Canto. I mean, it's the same stuff with all the others, except he's a piece of shit. So, you know, C tier. Stefan is I guess the secret character of this game because his recruitment is really specific in both this game and in Radiant Dawn. You have to go to a very specific, like a 1-tile spot in the desert chapter with Lether Mordecai to get him. And you get the Vague Kadi, which is a good weapon. It's the S-rank sword. It's nice to have. It's good to have S-rank weapons that are very powerful. And only he can use it. So he has that. He can use any sword that you want. Pre-promoted sword master, really fast, gonna one round everything for like a hot minute, which is nice. So I think he's better than like Zyhark. Probably better than nah. I put maybe like this. I don't know. C tier is starting to get out of control. This is fucking with my symmetry obsession, so we might have to do something to fix this later, but that's what it is. Stefan does have a hot minute of being pretty good, where you're going to deploy him probably for a few chapters and going to be like, hey, this guy's all right. And then probably by the time you get to like chapter 18, 19, you're going to drop him, and that's fine because he's good while he's around. He never has a phase where he's like just super bad that you have to survive through. Nice unit. Marime and Tormod. So Marime comes with the Demi-Band, which is badass because it allows Laguz, it gets rid of their big weakness, which is having to go between transformation and not transformed. That's such a weird thing. It's a weird way. I didn't know how to say that and make it sound sensical. But for like a small cost to the stats, he can stay transformed. Now, obviously, any Laguz can use this, but Marime does it pretty good because he's very bulky, he's very strong early on. He's not going to double. He's going to be pretty much a player phase killer and maybe like a bulk guy to absorb some damage, which is nice. So maybe, I don't know. He's worse. He's definitely a tier worse than Leth because he's not around. I probably like him about as much as Ike, more than Astrid, maybe a little less than Ike because he doesn't have that availability. And then Tormod is really bad. I think Tormod has an interesting trait in that he has higher movement than, you know, anybody else, any other mages, most other footlocked units. But the thing about Tormod is that his stats are butt cheeks, and by the time he arrives, you just need dudes that kill people, like Marime. Marime kills people. What the fuck is Tormod doing? Jack shit, that's what he's doing. Yeah, he can get really far, but like his high movement just means there's more unique ways you can get him killed on enemy phase. That's all it does. He I think effectively only has 2 speed higher than Soren did at base, and Soren wasn't doubling shit in chapter 3. And you're telling me that Tormod's gonna come in and be the new killer? Like, nah, dude, kind of fuck Tormod in this game, but he's OD, like, good as shit in Radiant Dawn when he's around, so quite nice there. But Path of Radiance, not all that impressed. I'm also not that impressed with Donved. Devdon? I think, wait. This is Devdon, and then Donved is Radiant Dawn. Devdon is fine. He's the definition of fine because you get him. And he's pre-promoted Halberdier. Throws javelins. He's got some bulk. He's okay. If you need a guy to come in and do some work for you, it works out. It just works. He's a pretty anonymous unit. He's not in a very good class. I think that hurts him because you want like all that good shit. So is he... I maybe put him above Zyhark and Ileana. I'm probably going to just go ahead and drop Ileana down to D tier and move Makalov up to right there. And Ike as well to the bottom of B tier. I think this... this gives us the symmetry we're looking for. I'm really liking this now. This is appeasing me. This is giving my OCD a lot of pleasure. We now just need to find another F tier unit to make this really start to match. Tanith. Oh, I fucking love Tanith. Bruh. Not only is it Tanith, so you gotta love it. She is pre-promoted Falcon Knight, coming in hot with the reinforced skill. She can just call 3 other Pegasus Knights into the battle. That's ridiculous. Especially in a more casual playthrough, that's really nice because it can help you like take the heat off. Free you up to go do side objectives, things like that. And she's got a lot of nice. I don't know if she's like got the type of nice that's as nice as Boyd and Mordecai, but it's still nice because, you know, as a flyer, she can rescue drop, she can go around Super Canto, go into areas no one else can, and throw some javelins around. And enemies are generally weak enough to where she can survive a good amount of them before having to peace out. So very nice. Really, the availability is the only problem with her, I find. But very, very good character. Big fan. Rayson. You know, it's the eternal dancer problem. Is he S tier because dancing is broken, or is he A tier because he's not around a whole lot? I think that he is... He's around for enough of the game, I think, to warrant S tier, because he can dance for 4 people at once when he transforms, which is really nice. It takes a while to get to that point, but it just adds more on top that he can do. And for like a playthrough where you're playing, you're playing fast enough to get like all the bonus experience, but you're not LTCing, he's probably going to be transformed during parts of the maps, which is, nice as hell. It's what you like to see. And also Oliver would approve this rating. So if Oliver would approve it, you got to go with it. And then Janaf and Ulki these are probably the 2 most anonymous units in this game. Ulki probably has a running for one of the least popular characters in the series, just because who the fuck is he? I've used them a little bit. And by the time they come in, the fact that they have to deal with this like they have to deal with the transformation gauge bullshit really starts to hurt. Laguz were done dirty in this game because they're just never going to be as good as your Bjork units, your human units that can just run around and just be normal all the time, be in a good combat state all the time, whereas Laguz have to, they have to transform. It really bites. It really bites. It means there's significant portions of maps where they can't do a whole lot. So I've never used them long term. They are significantly better in Radiant Dawn because when they come in Radiant Dawn, they just murder people. But in this game, they don't murder anybody because they don't have a chance to do damage. I mean, I'd still say better than like these guys. They're about the same unit. I don't know who's better. I think Ulki's probably a little better, but really they don't do dick, and it's a kind of a shame because it's actually not who gives a shit. It's Ulki and Janaf. Now Khalil's pretty nice. Khalil's nice to have. She has bolting at base. She can use bolting. That's pretty good. She can one-shot Schaefer, or not one-shot Schaefer, but she can snipe him to end that chapter quick if you're not concerned with the treasure, and it gets you a lot of bonus experience. That's pretty nice. I think I personally find her better than like a Soren or an Ileana because while she's around, she's just good out of the box and does the chip damage that she does. She usually just will kill a guy, or she'll do very significant chip damage, which is a lot more than Soren does for a long time. And just no investment required, I think, is very nice. Whereas Soren, you want to get him to promote. This is a game with only 3 master seals, I think. So you got to get to level 21, and that's very difficult for a lot of units. So just being promoted and good enough to like kill some dudes, very valuable. Tironio, like S tier for like style points. Like this dude has got it going on, but like D tier utility, definitely. Because by the time he comes into the game, you just don't have a need for this type of bulk or resolve or 5 move. You need big move. You need big move to hit enemy with big dick. And he's got the big dick. He just don't have the big move. And that's a problem. And it just ain't working out, which is a shame because fucking Tironio, dude, a beast. Har, definitely the guy that got beast moded the most between Path of Radiance and Radiant Dawn. He's fine here in Path of Radiance. He just doesn't have any availability really. I mean, we're getting to the point now where all these guys have got like the latter third of the game to fuck with. He shows up in the bridge map. He's a pain in the ass to recruit because you got to like run Jill backwards and it sucks. But I mean, hey, he flies, uses the Brave Axe. It ain't all that bad. It's still hard. He's pretty good. But, I find he actually struggles to like one-round enemies without the Brave Axe. But again, being able to fly around with hand axes just means he does. Because if you're not killing a lot of enemies on enemy phase, you want to at least have the bulk to do a shitload of damage to them. Because he can just fly from group to group and weaken a lot of enemies while your footlocked scrubs kind of catch up and kill off the scraps. I think Har does that just fine. Ranulf, big points for big gay, but he's a cat. He's not just he starts off transformed. That's not nice, I guess. Bastion. You know. I like Bastion as a character. I've used him as a unit. In my most recent normal playthrough, like where I played the game like the way that it's intended to, by attacking on player phase, I had him in the support with Lucia, and it was quite nice. They were pretty bad together, but they got it done, kind of. Not really. Bastion got it done significantly more, for what it's worth. But he's around just enough to be useful, I think. And he you know, he's okay. He's okay. He does things. And doing things is better than not doing things. F tier. Lucia has all the problems of like Mia, except I guess she's more usable out of the box because pre-promote and better move and stronger and better weapon rank and can survive a couple of enemies instead of no enemies. But still fucking awful. Joffrey's he's a weird dude because probably better than Astrid, probably. He's not all that great, but he's good enough to be serviceable. And then, of course, having him mount is just so nice in this game that you love to see it when you get more of it. And he gives you more of it. So, I'll take it. Brave Lance is a good weapon. And he just uses it out of the box. Of course, a lot of people at that point in the game can use the Brave Lance, but he's mounted and can use the Brave Lance. So, hey, that's really nice. You can cap his level out pretty easily. I mean, he's good. You know, the thing about your calves and your shit like that is that they all benefit a lot from having the Night Crest available. I think it was called the Night Crest. This is the Night something. Night Ward. That's what it is. The Night Ward. And Ward is what the barrier staff is called. I remembered it now. The Night Ward basically gives all Cavaliers an effective, I think it's plus 20% speed growth. So, fuck. Go dump some BXP on them while they have the Night Ward on and watch speed go brrr. It's very nice. Largo is badass. I fucking love Largo. He's not all that good. He's got very high HP and ridiculously low, like, defense. So, like, it's really funny to watch the high HP just, like, drain away. Just... But the difference between him and, like, a lot of the characters down here is that he never has to go through a phase of being terrible. He's perfectly usable. And, hey, usable is nice. I find that, like, on the big Rolling Rock, that's a beer, but you know what I'm talking about, the Rolling Rock chapter. Hey, he's all right. He kills some dudes. He dies a couple times probably, but, you know, he puts work in, and he can come off the bench. I like characters that can just come off the bench and be decent, which is like all these fucking scrubs down here. Like, don't do that. I might honestly move Braum down to F tier now that I'm thinking about it. Symmetry. But, you know, he does that, and that's good. Alencia is a hard unit to rate because she's very nice to have while she's around because flying staff user, but she has the problem of staff users in this game, which is that staves are not all that great. Her combat is not good at all. And flies. I like flyers. I like green-haired flyers a lot. So that's valuable, I guess. But, you know, physics staff is pretty good, but you don't really need the wings for the physics staff, which is the best staff in the game. So I'm really not a big fan of Alencia. in this game. I like her more in Radiant Dawn. Radiant Dawn, she's pretty good. She has moments. She has like in part 2, she's really nice. Better than Tironio. I probably put her below Zyhark, above Ileana. Now, Nasir and Enna are an interesting case for tiering because basically, if you lose to the Black Knight, you get Enna. If you beat the Black Knight, you get Nasir. In a strict context of if you have them, Enna is probably better because Ike is probably worse in that context. So I think Enna is better than Nasir, but it's nitpicking at that point. In a vacuum, Nasir is better, I think. But it doesn't matter. The goal here, they are one of 3 characters in the game that can damage Ashnard. Or each playthrough, you will only have 3 characters that can damage Ashnard, which is Ike, one of Nasir or Enna, and then one of the Royal Laguz. And think about that is that once you get to Ashnard, even on hard mode, like Enna just can't do shit. Unless you pump her full with a bunch of levels, and maybe you should do that. It makes her more reliable against Ashnard. But like at base, Ashnard really wrecks Enna and Nasir. So they're not all that helpful. And that's just one enemy in the game. Now, being able to fight Ashnard is actually a really nice thing because, again, since nobody can do it, it is exclusive utility that does help them out. I think it makes them better than someone like Tironio, but not significantly so. So probably this. Yo, fuck Tormod. He goes into F tier for my symmetry. And then it's much the same for these Laguz Royals. They are way worse in hard mode than they are in normal and easy mode. If you're playing normal or easy mode, you get them for the entirety of the final chapter. If you play on hard mode or maniac mode, you only get them for the final phase of Ashnard. So they only literally have one enemy they can fight. On normal mode, you can just call them in, and whoever you call in absolutely eats the shit out of the entire final map. It eats their ass like crazy, but in hard mode, they literally get one enemy to go up against. It's an important enemy. You need to beat that enemy to beat the game, but it's all they got, and it's not that good. Gifka's the best of them. So you got Tabarn, Nisala, and Gifka. And it's the order of which they're good is going to be, as far as I know, I never pick Tabarn or Nisala because Gifka is just better. But it is going to be Gifka, Tabarn, Nisala is what I remember as being the order. I know Gifka's number 1. I don't think people are going to get that triggered over, like, if I forget if I got it wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's Tabarn then Nisala. But I could also just be like biased because Radiant Dawn, where Tabarn is really good. These are, it's the Gato problem. How does availability really help? And honestly, they have a piece of utility that is very unique, but in hard mode, they're just not there. They don't, someone like Athos has the entirety of the final map. Gato has the entirety of the final map. But on hard mode, which is what we're tiering this on, Gifka, Tabarn, and Nisala only have one enemy. And, it's an important enemy, and I give them a lot of credit for it, but I'm not buying. Now, looking at this, I'll probably move Soth up to right here. Above Tironio, I think. Because the difference between, Nasir and Enna, and then, Gifka, Tabarn, and Nisala, is that they have a couple of chapters where they're hanging around and they can kill some dudes, and they have all the final map. They got more availability, and they can do some work against regular enemies. Gifka, Tabarn, and Nisala don't have that, and that sucks. But we got it in just under an hour. Yes, that's what I wanted. So that was fun. My voice is pretty dry now. I'm very hoarse. So hopefully you all enjoyed. And any areas where you're not liking it, you're not feeling it, you're thinking I fucked up, feel free to let me know and tell me what you think. But I will see you all in the next video. Bye-bye.